Ready?
Welcome back to Basic Banter for Witches. We are so excited. You are back again for another week of fun with us. We're pumped. We're excited.
You're
And we're
pumped.
extra excited because we have a very special guest who has been wanting to come on for 2 years now. And our schedules finally aligned. It's the most amazing woman, Jess Tetu.
Literally. I feel like I fangirled over you for the entire time of knowing you. And I think I say to you every time, like, you're
Oh
just so
God.
amazing, you're inspiration. But you are.
I do have to say I do laugh, Jess, because every event that I've done, I can always hear the cry snort, and I'm like, Jess is here.
She's here.
It's always
She's here. I'm like,
yeah.
oh my gosh.
I'm like, oh, there she is. I'm like, you could literally do it yourself. Like, you could literally share my speech. You guys have been there so many times, and you still are like immediately in tears.
Immediately tears.
But every time I hear it, it's a different part that gets me where I'm like, oh,
I think it's a different piece of your life at that time, right? Like where you're at or what's happening in your world or whatever's happening that really connects, right? That you pick up at a different, that's why I get emotional at different parts of it when I'm not expecting, I'm like, where are these tears coming from? I haven't cried over that in 10 years, and then
I think that's so right, especially on the events that we've seen you speak as well. Not saying that those events have themes to them, like emotional themes, but it's like all of a sudden, the hundreds of people or whatever. I feel like there was 1,000 in the last one I was out with you. It was like they're all emotional, and of course that kind of brings in all the emotion as well. And you're like, so if people don't know who Jess is,
yes, let's give a quick rundown of actually who she is. As
number one,
who knows who she is?
Who is Jess T? Miss Tetu? Well, she's an entrepreneur. She's a serial entrepreneur, and I'm going to use your own words there. So Jess is the CEO and founder of Leah Reese Canada. Jess Tetu on Instagram she's just powerhouse. You do mentorship programs. Iconic Betty is your jewelry line. Just for You day spas. What am I missing here? No, you do. Sorry, what is your
foundation?
The foundation.
471.
471 Foundation as well, which is the support of families dealing with addictions. Am I correct in saying that?
Addictions and mental health.
Mental health.
It all kind of just intertwines, but
So, and Leah Reese Canada, which is the big brand that
the umbrella of all the things.
And it's funny because the spas were originally the umbrella, that was the thing, and then Leah Reese just kind of
escalate,
made its own. It kind of just came in and challenged it. It did well, and then it's just become its very own personality. So different, fun, and Iconic Betty, and the speaking, and all of that. So
So one thing I want to tell our listeners as well. So I mean, if you've kind of got a little bit of a snippet, in our first initial conversation here with Jess, is what kind of a powerhouse she is, and now she is. We're so excited to bring her on because again, her story is one of a kind. If you've not seen her speak, you need to take the time, find an event near you. I don't know if you're speaking again at International Women's Day again this year, but
what day is it?
There's so many. I know the 8th of March. I'll never forget.
Are we in 2024 already?
Where are we?
You've already come to 9 of them with me.
Exactly.
Don't worry about the dates.
Exactly. But I think one of the biggest things that you bring to the table is your story is so profound. The women and the people that you bring together and unite through your story, I think is one of the biggest things that makes you so impactful on people, is because you are relatable to everyone. And it's so hard, I mean, in this day and age, to relate to anybody, especially somebody of such social standing as well. But it's I guess we're so blessed to know you as a person, aside from all of this. But it's just of course, it's just you're just, I always say it, you're unstoppable. You are the biggest mentor to our whole family. We just love you. So
if you haven't noticed, these are my 2 biggest fans.
We're here.
But
honestly, we are.
I know you guys are so sweet, but you've just been so supportive since day one. And I mean, it's been my honor and my pleasure to have you guys with me at those events and stuff. Just to have somebody that has been on this journey with me specifically. Even Britt, you've been with me for 14 years in the company. You've watched the company go from. I know, isn't that crazy? And I mean, obviously, anywhere Britt's been, you've been. So
that's right.
It is very cool to have and like meaningful to have those people that have like walked the journey and they've seen those steps, like, you know, the falls and the fails and then the triumphs and then to get to that point where you're standing on stage and you're sharing those moments. You know, you've been at award events where I've won awards and shared those experiences with me. And then like the fails, I mean, I don't know how many times you've been on the other end of a crying Jess being like, I can't do this anymore. You know, the life of an entrepreneur. It's just such a roller coaster.
Yeah.
And so it is really like my honor that I've had to, like, been able to have you guys there helping me or assisting or, you know, being on that journey is just cool to have the people that love you surround you. So
Well, thank you.
that's been my honor.
I think that's exactly why your speech connects to us so much, is because, you know, when you've had big moments in your life, we've been there, or I've been one of the first phone calls, or whatever the case is, where you're just like, you know, you go through the highs and the lows with you in that very second. So then when you go through everything in your speech and everything, like in your story, you remember those feelings right back when it was. And I think that's why it connects us so much more.
Exactly.
And I think that's probably why it's emotional sometimes too, right? It's just like
we're reliving it again with you.
Yeah.
Yep.
Exactly. And you were there, you knew the emotion and you knew what it felt like. I mean, you were there when you know, you were part of it when my dad passed away, and like how impactful that was. And then to see it turn into something beautiful after and stuff like, so there's just different, it's going to be different for people that have lived those things with me than strangers, although strangers get tearful and stuff because of their own journeys, obviously. But
yeah. And like seeing you win awards and stuff and like get the acknowledgements and like, you know, the accolades that you do, it is like seeing your baby grow into the world, like, because you deserve it so much. And like, you know what, but the very least, but do you know what I mean? Like
sweet.
It's one of those things. It's like, yeah, you need awards. Yeah, you need everything in this world. Do you know what I mean? It's like, of all of the things in this world, I know you have as well, we might discuss a little bit, you know, things have not come hard to you, but like, damn girl, you have worked and you have worked and you have fucking worked. And so like, it just seems like, yes, you deserve every amazing thing in this world. And so anyways,
thank you so much.
There's my Jess Tetu
I think the
sales pitch.
You guys are just so sweet. I'm like, you're not going to make me cry on this damn show, you guys.
But it wouldn't be the first time someone has cried, and won't be the last.
Not the last. No.
How about you need a warning?
Yeah.
Warning.
Yeah.
It's awesome because seeing you work so hard, that's kind of why this episode is important, because now we can kind of see and ask you the questions of, when you did want something, how did you bring it into fruition? Like, how did you manifest it? How did a goal, how did a spark of a seed in your mind get planted to create something so beautiful? You know, that would be the thing.
I think that, like, I mean, it's different for every experience or everything that I've done, but I just kind of believed that if I could go from where I went from and even get to like the first level of success that I had, which was like being able to like buy my business and be taken seriously at 21 years old, and to have that happen, I kind of just was like, frick, if I can do that, I can do anything. Like, if I can survive all of that, like, what's the harm in trying? And so I think a really big piece for me with that is what is actually a very big misunderstanding, maybe, or misconception about me or about entrepreneurship, is the fear. And so I don't feel fear in terms of business the way that maybe some other new entrepreneurs have or do, or maybe non-entrepreneurs. For me, it just wasn't scary at the level that I guess maybe it should have been, or typically is, I should say, not necessarily should have been. Fear for me was like the things I'd gone through, and living in shelters, or being in a domestic abuse situation, or having no food, or not knowing how I was going to survive for the next day. That to me was fear. Whereas like, maybe someday I'll have 2 locations, or maybe someday I'll have 3. Like, to me, that just wasn't scary. It was kind of more of a dream. And then I guess from that mindset of like the idea of, kind of to speak more to what you're asking, to see it go from like an idea to actually taking place, is I really do believe a lot of it came from the support of people that I communicated with. Because I think it can go either way. If you go with a beautiful idea to the wrong people, the wrong group, that idea can just be like flattened, and that spark can just be like put out, or, you know, it'll deflate you. And I think if you go to the right people that like genuinely want to support you and see you do well, they give you the feedback and the support, I guess, that you need to kind of take that next step and know that like, maybe I'm not crazy to do this. And then for me, it wasn't like, I mean, nothing about it was overnight. It was a very much a baby steps type situation. But I always just kind of had this like belief in myself that like, if somebody can do it, I could do it. You know, like I remember watching like people like Oprah, for example, who like went from like nothing and and she'd just say like, well, you got to just do it.
Yeah.
Like just try, maybe it'll work out, maybe it won't, but like, it's certainly not going to work if you don't try. And so I kind of just have that mentality of like, I don't know, maybe let's talk about it. And then the more you talked about it, the more it became like realistic, I guess. Like do you remember when we were first opening Regina and it was like an idea, like, I think I want to open somewhere else. And we like talked about it. And then it was like, maybe Regina, like, I think maybe we should open in Regina. And then it was like, well, let's just like look at spaces and see if it's even something that we want to consider. And then it was, okay, well, I found that space. I can kind of picture it there. And then it just became more and more and more real.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like, oh, I can do this. And I saw the end goal, like immediately. I saw this like spark of like, what if we went that way? Like, what if we tried that, you know?
Yeah.
And that's always what it's been. The jewelry line, the cosmetic line, the skincare line, the speaking, the mentorship, all of that stuff was always just a little bit of like a spark of like, I'm going to just like see what's down that road, you know?
Yeah.
And some of them didn't work out. A lot of them didn't work out. A lot of them were failures and I fell on my face a lot, you know, but
and some
you
things
don't share those ones necessarily.
only those that were there know about
Yeah.
But you know, like there are some things that I would say not a lot of people know that Leah Reese Canada had an academy and it was short-lived, but it still did well in the short time that it was there because it was still an idea. I know it was still busy.
And it wasn't a failure, but it didn't work because the commitment was too high for what we had available. And it was too much commitment to take away from like the other businesses. And I was like, to make this little profit, but all my attention and energy, would it have worked if we would have committed 100? Yeah, of course it would have.
Of course.
And we still actually do a couple of classes here and there, just very like quietly. I'm not going to market it or anything, but we do. We've done a couple of pedicure, manicure classes. And I mean, you did a couple body treatment courses and stuff.
Oh yeah.
But it just, the spark didn't really turn into anything. And so we were like, okay, that's okay. You live and learn. Let's try something else. And then we took our energy and put it into something else. And, you know, and then the next thing happened to do really well. So it always starts as like a little spark. And you never know. I mean, that door's never completely closed. Like maybe someday I'll revamp the academy and get it going again. And maybe in my world, the right people will, you know, manifest to me and come to me and be able to do that. But right at the time that, you know, you and I and a couple of other team members were doing it, it just wasn't the timing.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah,
and that's so fair. I wrote down the word spark earlier and I just circled it because we've been talking about the spark. And I think that's like such a nice kind of way to look at it because it'll like a lot of our readings and a lot of our chats, really, it's like everything starts with an idea and it's deciding whether to chase it or not, right? Because some sparks are long-lived and some are short, but it's like you don't know unless you try, right? So even you don't know how long that idea is going to go.
And it's not even like, okay, go chase that spark and go like all in on it. It's just kind of give it a chance, like take a look. Let's just let's just investigate this a little bit. Let's just like check into this a little bit. Let's see what's there. Like there's something there. I feel like I need to,
you have to explore
give it a little bit of attention. Explore it.
It's like almost like within that path as well. So I mean, if I, you know, the little one that I'm not too sure about, if I pursue it and maybe it doesn't work out, but it's opened the doors to so many other ones too, right? Absolutely. Because I took that first little bit. So go ahead. Yeah,
exactly. No, exactly. And you might go like, yeah, I thought I'd like this, but you know what? Turns out I don't really.
But I really like this chapter of it. Yeah, exactly.
And it doesn't, to me, it's not a fail. It's I'm glad I figured this out without investing. But like, okay, awesome. That's not really for me.
Yeah, totally. Exactly.
Remember at one point I actually was going in the direction of opening a clothing store.
Yeah.
And
I remember.
I went into it with partners and was like right toward, and it was exciting. It was fun. And it was like, my adrenaline was going and I like that spark was there. And then I got towards the like getting closer to like it coming to life. And I was like, what am I doing? I don't have the passion for this. This is not the direction I should be going, but it was theirs. And I was excited for them. And I mistook it for my own passion. And that really was my opening for realizing I should be coaching people and helping them like into the right direction. Yeah.
I was just gonna say that sounded like it was almost the turning point of like, oh, I was excited for them. And I was excited for the journey to see them do it, but I didn't need to be a partner. I didn't need to be as involved.
Yeah. And I wanted to see it do super well, but and I was excited about the idea. It was a great idea. It was a great business model, but I didn't want it to be mine.
Exactly.
And I didn't figure that out until all of a sudden, like right at the end, which was really unfortunate for them. But I mean, they've turned it into something amazing, which is incredible. And I'm so proud of them and I love them, but it just wasn't for me. And I'm so grateful. Oh, look.
Sorry, we got it.
Hi,
yes.
He's like, I know that voice.
Hey, mister.
I know that crazy lady's voice.
Up out of his exercise, and I bunked his head on the table, and he's like,
he's like, oh, but hi, ladies.
So funny.
It's fine.
He's just like, I know those people. Those are my people.
He's
those
like,
are the
those are my Jesses. Those are my Jesses.
He's such a nosy boy. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I think it just like, it was a big opener for me, how like opening that door and like exploring that direction actually led me to something I never would have considered. And that is coaching and mentoring and helping people. I now help people who are like, I know I'm meant to be an entrepreneur, but I have no idea in what field.
Yeah.
Okay. That happens.
Yeah. But I mean, you right now, he's got lots to add to this conversation. He's like, guys, in terms of your entrepreneurship or your mentorship, like you've found a way to really help. I mean, I know people who've worked with you, like completely third party, that they're like, oh, she's helped me. I'm like again, your reach is just phenomenal here because you've got a little bit of information for everybody because you've been there, you've done it, you've tried it.
And I think the biggest, I mean, I can help them in a million different ways in terms of business because I've been doing it for 20 some years. But what I think the biggest thing that I offer that I think is just so important that I didn't have, which is why I do it, is just that support system, that person that's like in your corner and it says like, I got your back. Like if it's a good idea, I'm with you and I'm going to tell you it's great. And if it's not, or I see some challenges there, I'm going to like warn you about them. I'm going to be honest about it. I'm going to tell you like, hey, I've tried that. Let's be weary when we're going down this road. Or, you know what, I got you. Don't listen to what they say. I've run the numbers. I've done this. It's a smart business model and I would do it. Yeah. And I think there's just so much value to having somebody in your corner because in the world of entrepreneurship, unless you are an entrepreneur, the people around you that love you the most aren't going to understand it in the same capacity. They just aren't. And that's just a thing you learn very early in entrepreneurship is that like your spouse, let's say, or your friends or your parents or your family, they don't see entrepreneurship the same way that you do until they've done it themselves. So the best people to talk to are other entrepreneurs or get a coach that can help like be your eyes and ears and your support and your sounding board. Because sometimes the people that love you can't see that vision for you. It doesn't mean that they're not supportive. It just means they can't visualize it. Like, I don't know how you're going to open a spa in another city that you don't live in. I just don't see it plausible. I don't see it. Like, those are things I heard all the time. Yeah. And then I'd go to like Britt or Giselle or like the people in my, and they were like, 100% we have to do this. It makes sense. It's the smart move. Let's run the numbers. Let's, and it was never a bad idea. It just wasn't fathomed by some of the people that couldn't imagine being a visionary like that.
Yeah. Do you think it has to do with they couldn't get past seeing the risk versus the reward of it too, maybe?
I think so. And I think that like when you don't know how to, that's like, it's like putting a math problem in front of you and you're not good at math. Like I'd be like, that's terrifying. And like to somebody that's experienced in it, they'd say, well, no, it's not. Yeah. I could do that. And so it's very similar. If they don't do it, they don't know how, like the risk of like not getting a paycheck every month and not, when they've never done it can be very terrifying. And I totally understand that. So it's not really anyone's fault for not seeing it. The visionary piece isn't there because they're not an entrepreneurial mind.
Yeah, no, that's totally fair. Now again, like in entrepreneurship, obviously we kind of touched a little bit on like, I guess moving forward when it feels right, and moving at that intuition to kind of, when your gut says to do something, or to guide other people because it's like it's a good idea. How do we make it happen? I can I mean, again, as someone who knows you, I'm like, I feel like that's a huge part of your life from day one, is like you do things, you've done certain things because the calling was there, because the moment was right. Is there any situations where you're like, I'm glad I didn't do it? Or, I mean, obviously we talked about the clothing store, but do you mean like if there's any other examples?
I try to not have any regrets, because all it's done is ever teach me. I do have regrets in regards to like how long I maybe let something go on, or like I wish I would have trusted myself sooner, that kind of stuff. But I don't really regret even the hardest moments of my life. I don't really regret, because they all brought me to where I am now. And I don't know that I'd be the strong, confident, or independent person that I am today if I wouldn't have gone through that. However, you have to get to a pretty healed place and confident place to be able to say that, because for a lot of years I was really hard on myself about any errors that I made. And I mean, I've made a lot of mistakes in a lot of different ways to do that. But at the end of the day, I learned my calling at a very young age, that I was meant to help people. And if you look at all the different things that I do in my career, at the end of the day, that's always the common denominator. In the spas, like we help people feel good. We help create careers. We help give people space to like escape their lives or have a little break. You look at cosmetics and like the skincare and all of the skin stuff. I mean, that we created that to help people with like A, concerns with skin, and B, not spending an overly huge price, but being able to give back to the community, and that's helping people. You look at like the jewelry line, same thing. I created it to be able to like to support confidence and stuff, but to donate back to the Canadian Mental Health Association. I do my mentorship to help. I do my foundation to help people. I public speak to help people. And I never really like knew that that was the common denominator until I like started to like understand my why. Like my why I do the things that I do, why I continue to do the things that I do, because for me, that's the most rewarding. That's the most rewarding payment for me, is when I get to help people. It really is. It's like the best feeling. I've stood on stage and I've won an award myself. And then I've now been a coach standing on the other side of it and watching my client win the award. And I was a blubbering baby. Like way more emotional about her winning. I mean, I've had a few now that have won, which is so incredible in the last couple of years. But the first one was like more rewarding to me than when I won it myself, which told me I was in the right spot.
That's like your affirmation or your confirmation.
Yeah,
That's
it was
fantastic.
like you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, like giving her that confidence and helping her build that confidence. And I think that's what those awards did for me, is that yes, it's wonderful to have this like award to show the world and give you legitimacy, but for me it was confidence. And it was like, especially being in an industry, the beauty industry, which yes, it's a multi-billion dollar industry in the world. However, it is very like looked down upon in terms of the professional world in regards to like legitimacy or professionalism, or it just wasn't really taken as seriously. And so it was a really big goal of mine to be like, I deserve a spot here. Like I deserve, this industry creates careers and we do amazing things for people. Like we absolutely deserve a spot up there with, the financial institutions and the big corporations. And
exactly.
And being able to do that was a really big feat for me. And it was a really big win for me when we did. So it wasn't just about like the trophy or it was about saying like, I earned that spot up there.
Oh, well, exactly. Right. How do you maintain the momentum? How do you how do you generate the steam, and then how do you continue to keep going after all of these, things that happen? Well, that's fair. That's okay.
True story. It's true story. I love the feeling of accomplishment. I love it. Like I love the feeling of accomplishment. I love being creative, coming up with a concept and like watching it flourish and turn into something beautiful. It's such a fulfilling thing for me. But I do have ADHD, and I do find that I am consistently finding interest in new things and kind of giving it a whirl and saying like, well, let's try that, or let's do this. I try to keep it, I'm very choosy about what directions I go, because I do like it to be all aligned, and I'm very, picky about the areas that I give my attention to and all of those things. But I just am wired a little bit differently in terms of I don't do well in stagnant situations. I like to be consistently moving. I like to make an impact. I like to see a big impact in our community. I like to be able to create careers. I love to create something beautiful, whatever that is, a new line, a new business, or whatever, and watch it flourish. It's like the most rewarding thing. And then especially so if it creates positive impact at the end.
Yeah. Well, that's so good. Yeah. That's
You know,
again,
I was thinking of, I'm sorry to interrupt you, Jeff.
that's fine.
One thing that I was thinking of as you're talking about how it's like I had an idea and it was a spark and I just went for it. And this brought up something I heard the other day to do with divine timing, where I feel like this connects together, where it's like the spark and you went for it. And you didn't have fear because you're like, you know what, we're just gonna see how it goes. The divine timing quote that I had heard was, divine timing can be anytime. Divine timing can be tomorrow. It could literally happen tomorrow. So when people think of divine timing or they think of a plan, they always think long term. They think of the end goal. They think of, oh, it's going to happen one day or someday. Whereas divine timing could happen in an hour from now. Just like your spark, it could literally happen right away. You just have to let it get there.
And it can sit dormant for a long time. You look at the jewelry line. I've wanted to have my own jewelry line since I was 9 years old.
Yeah.
I made bracelets and stuff when I was a kid. Like my grandmother introduced me to her jewelry line, and I remember like being so in love with it. And all through my career, it's been in the back of my mind always. But I was like, I don't want to make it. Like, I don't want to sit and do it. Like, it was just always put on the back burner. And then come COVID, we had been selling all of this jewelry in the spas. And I was like, what did we have during COVID? We had time for the first time in forever. And I was like, now's the time. Like, let's just look into it and let's do a small investment and see. So I did a small investment, created a small line, introduced it to the spas alongside the other jewelry lines that we did. It did really well. And then I invested a little bit more. So it's like baby steps, but it wasn't until the world, like you said, the divine time came in front of me and was like, it showed itself to me like, now's the time. And I had this root, this spark that was just sitting dormant.
Yeah.
And it was waiting all my life. It was there and it was like waiting, following me along in this journey. And then this like opening came and it's doing, that line is doing so well. And I'm so proud of it. And it has overpassed and surpassed my other brands like by miles and miles. And I never anticipated that. I thought it was going to be like this little thing, and you just don't know sometimes.
That's right.
I thought at one point that the cosmetic line would be like the big thing, because when we started the cosmetic line, Sephora wasn't really a big thing.
Right.
Just aged myself very much so there, but it wasn't. And then it just didn't go the way that I thought it was going to go in terms of like what we would carry. And I thought the jewelry would just be this little tiny thing. And now we have all these wholesalers and retailers that carry it across the country and interest into the States and all of this stuff. And I'm like, it was meant to be.
That's right.
Yeah. That makes me so happy.
And it doesn't mean that it would work out right away the first time. I might have failed doing it 15 times before it turned out good. It just happened to be that it went well this time. But I mean, the cosmetics, we tried with this big line.
Yeah.
And it had every color of foundation and concealer and every type of foundation. We went over the top, spent all this money on these displays, like $100,000 at least, or 150 probably. And you know what? It never really did what I wanted it to do. Is the cosmetic, are they bad? No, they're amazing. It just couldn't compete with like the quick cash and carry places like Sephora and Shoppers Drug Mart. And Amazon. And so we cut it back. We went a different route. We brought in like not single use, but like long-term use palettes that had like 10 colors in one. And the packaging was recyclable and cheaper to get and more inexpensive to get them made. I got them made overseas with really good quality control and stuff. And I went a different route, and we sold more of those than we did any of our cosmetics combined. So sometimes you have to just like pivot and reroute a little bit and try a new spark and try a different direction. And whether I'll keep going with the cosmetics, I don't know at this point, but there's nothing to say that spark won't come along again someday and be like the better timing for it.
Absolutely. Yeah. One special thing about your iconic Betty line that connects us so well is one of your pieces. You can't get it now, guys. Sorry, it was a limited edition.
It's a limited edition.
But maybe bring it back in.
Oh my God. a good time.
Do we could do a relaunch
That would be
Would
or
be
a number
cool.
2.
we
Like
could do that. Yeah. So
Yeah.
we have our amazing grandma who passed away. She was more of an auntie, but we always called her grandma,
Oh,
Grandma
yeah.
Faye. Yeah, and Jess was so incredibly kind to create a piece in memory of her when she had passed away. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's one of my favorite pieces to this
Yeah.
day. I love
Yeah.
everything, but every time I go in to get another piece, I'm just like, but I just love this one so much.
But I
don't even
love
think I can.
mine. I think it was like, again, like being so close to you in your journey, it was like, it just like, it felt so close to home. And like the thought and like the sentiment there was such like
Yeah.
so nice. And what a lovely tribute to her as well. So it was like, yeah, it was just like, one of the nicest things that we could have
Yeah.
ever have
well, the
asked for
line
ever
itself, the
is
line
based
itself
on
is
Grandma
named for my
Betty.
grandma, who's not, and she's not my actual grandma. She just passed away like a couple weeks ago, which is so heartbreaking, obviously. But at the same time, like it was just, she was so proud of it and she was so honored. And I talk about this a lot about how like she didn't have to, she had no obligation. She was not my blood relative. She loved us as her grandchildren from the day my older sister was born. I don't know any different. Like she's raised me as her grandchild, but she had absolutely no obligation to us. And she was the most incredible, wonderful grandmother that I could like perfection in terms of a grandmother. And she introduced me to the beauty world. She introduced me to jewelry. So it was a no-brainer. And then the first collection, the very first, I don't know if you remember this, Brett, but the first original collection we released were all her best friends' names and all the people in her world.
Forgot
So it was,
about that.
she named the entire, like there was like 40 pieces or something. She named them all. They're all named after like everyone that she loved. And then still up until like like a month ago, I was still getting like I'd just get this random name. She would text me with like a funny, like heart, like emoji or like gift sticker or something. And, meaning like, hey, I forgot this person, put her in the line, you know, and we'd add it to the list of names. So it's always been about like, the little things that are big things to some people. And in my lines, like even if you think of the cosmetics, like every item is named for someone somewhere, something in my life. And I did the same with the jewelry line. And so for me, it's such a important thing. A random customer that's buying that piece might not know that that's for your grandma, right? But you do. And like and your family does. And like that can be such a big thing for you, which is why I did it. Cause like I think it just can give such appreciation and acknowledgement to people and their inspiration on us that may have no idea how much they meant to us or how much they helped us become the people we are.
Yeah, totally. Well, that's when it was launched, when that necklace was launched, I had friends and clients say, yeah, I bought one. I was like, what? Oh my God.
Yeah.
And that's probably because you mean so much to them.
Yeah, I think
that
so.
They bought it in support of you because she meant so much to you, right? And so
exactly.
but isn't that such a beautiful thing though? Like that impact of like direct, you can buy anything out there, but to like to sell that feeling and buy that feeling is just like you're just not, you can't compare to those things.
No.
The little pieces of gold you put on the world.
Exactly. I don't know if it was this season or last season, but we talked about talismans in one of our episodes. And basically it's like, you know, anything that we give the intention of love or whatever, you know, the symbolism is there in whatever we give and receive, right? And I do think that you know, in that, you know, strange turnabout way, it's like it was a talisman for our love for you know, the people we show love to and receive from, right? And like, you know, how we felt about our grandmother, but again, like that feeling that grandmothers give, I think. So I don't know. So I always see that.
And I have like teachers, and I have teachers named, and I have aunties, and I have a teacher that taught my kids that was amazing. And like for me, I just think the world is hard enough as it is around us. Like let's put little drops of beauty, like beautifulness back into the world. You know, whether anybody knows about it or not, like so for the most part, I try to like contact the person and say like, hey, just a quick note, I wanted to let you know, like you were an inspiration to me and I named this piece after you. Thank you so much for being inspiration. Like all my love, Jess. And it's time consuming because obviously like we have hundreds of pieces now. And not everyone, like lots of times our team just comes up with a cute name that they think matches the piece, but lots of times probably I would say 75% of them have like some sort of meaningful connection. And to me, it just feels so good to know that like we're putting that out there into the world, and just the energy alone is just There's
Oh,
enough negative out there. Let's make conscious efforts to put little beautiful things back in the world. And also, like, both your grandma and now mine are both passed, but there's like this beautiful thing that's like kind of still lingering that
Exactly.
just makes you smile when you think about them, right? Like,
Exactly. Yeah. And that's
yeah,
exactly what it should be doing, right? It's like, yeah, every time I put it on, I'm like, oh, you know what? Like,
love her. Yeah,
exactly.
right.
Love her. The memory
And
of
that's
it.
something that's something your kids will then know because you'll pass it on, right? And that's like keeping their energy and their spirit and their love alive
Exactly.
going forward. And
Yeah.
I just think it's so meaningful if you choose to let it be.
Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah.
And to the next
Exactly.
person, they're like, yeah, this is a cute little necklace. I like it. You know, they don't know the
Exactly.
meaning behind it, but for the people it does, I think it's just worth it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Really. I love it.
I don't know if we
Oh,
talked about manifesting yet. I feel like we did, but kind of not. In a roundabout way of just doing it.
it was like more so divine timing is what we've been kind of
Yeah.
connecting with.
Hmm.
But you know, if it were to, I swear that Jess, you used to have, I feel like you used to have it in the office, but I think it was more so a goal board than a manifest board. But I feel like all of your goals were always hit because you would put amazing um ideas on the board, whether that was opening this location or reaching this monetary goal or whatever the case was, and everything would come to fruition. And I don't even think you realized you were manifesting it at the time. You just treated it as a goal board, but
Goal board.
Well, I think, and I teach this to my clients, but I say this to everybody. I think it's so important to dream and to have goals because,
Mhm.
and to see them often, not just be like, yes, someday I wish I, to actually like look at them and see like, and if I was to do that, how am I going to get there? What am I going to do? Because then it becomes an actual like task on my list and it becomes an actual like challenge, not a challenge, but like, I'm working towards something. Like there's an
Mhm.
actual tangible thing there that I'm working towards. But if you
Mhm.
don't write it down or acknowledge it or revisit it or review it,
Yeah.
it's just a thought
Yes.
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it stays a dream. And for me, I think if you have a goal, like let's say I want to, whatever, have 10 business or 10 spas in 2 years. I do not. Let me put that out there first. I do not
I'm
want
like,
any more.
oh no, okay.
We're
Like we
good.
have enough of them already.
Let's do
Yeah,
it.
like okay, we're all just stop listening for a moment. That was an exaggeration. I'm not manifesting that. But if I did,
Unless you're
I'd want to write it
franchising, then
down.
please take over.
Yeah,
Yeah.
until we franchise them off. And I think that if that was on my goal list, I would be like, okay, well, where do I got to be to get there? And like, because if you look at it every day and you're reviewing it, and you're constantly, it doesn't become, it's not this far away goal anymore. It gets a little closer and a little closer every day,
Mhm.
and your goals continue to change. Then you're adding newer, bigger goals, and then you're adding newer, bigger goals. And so this big thing that once was at the top is now, a couple
Mhm.
of years in is in the middle if you're actually making a plan to reach those goals. And so
Yeah.
I think there's more to it than just being like, okay, world, bring me the lottery. Like,
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
there's work that goes along with it. But
Yeah.
if you put it out into the universe, like I believe in myself, I believe I can do this.
Mhm.
I believe if I
Mhm.
put the work in, I believe it's achievable
Yeah.
and
Mhm.
kind
I
of,
think what you're describing is
manifest.
the manifest board. You're just
Exactly.
like you're putting the
I think
manifest
so.
out there and the goals to lead it to you. You're like, okay, what am
But
I
I've
Yeah,
doing?
heard people
exactly.
use the term manifest, and like I'm manifesting that I meet the guy in my dreams and I win a car and I win the lottery. And I'm like, there's like some beautiful things that luck gives you in life and you've manifested a bit. But I think that there's also a piece of that is like you have to do the work on yourself as well and what you're putting into the
Mhm.
world to get
Right.
that stuff. You got to look
Exactly.
for it too. You can't just be like, it hasn't dropped into my, like, I want my dream job. Well, have you applied for any jobs?
Right.
Exactly.
Well,
Yeah.
no, it should just come to me. That doesn't happen. Go out and
Mhm.
apply and get yourself out there. You got to do the work is my point.
Exactly. The right thing will come
But
along to those who actually, you have to create the opportunity for it to arrive as
Yeah.
well, right? You can't
And you
sit
might have,
stagnant.
what the universe does, it does show you an opportunity, but then it's up to you to actually take it.
yeah.
You gotta seize
Because
And
it's
it.
you got
not
to be
going to
Yeah.
take
listening.
you down. It's going
Exactly.
to give you that door
And
open. If you go in there, great.
yeah.
If you don't, you missed it.
And sometimes chances or opportunities or help or beautiful things are in front of you. And we're too busy looking for the perfection that we miss those opportunities.
Yeah, exactly. If it doesn't look like the ideal, it's okay, right? It's
Mhm.
understanding that it's not supposed to
Yeah.
be bright and shiny, right? Like the grass is not greener,
Yeah.
right? Actually, my golf instructor, forward progress, anything that's going to move you forward is good. So that's good.
Yeah. And I just think like you gotta like good comes to those that are also looking for it. Because if
Mhm.
if you're looking for bad all day long, all you're going to see is bad.
Exactly. Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, if you're looking for the good all day, all you're going to see is good. And
Exactly.
I think it's your mindset around things too. Like
Mhm.
we've all had those days where like all you see is the bad, and like, oh, and then I'm like, and then this happened, and this happened, and this happened, and like none of those things would probably bother me on any other day, you know. But I got in that head space of like everybody's against me, everything's against me. Today sucks,
Exactly. Yeah. I know.
and
I
that's
I get
what you
that
look
way
for, your
too.
mindset, right?
Exactly. I always like find, some days you wake up and you're like, oh, I spilt my cup of coffee. And I'm like, ooh,
Yeah,
that's gonna determine the rest of my day. And I'm like, I've honestly like just kind of let that rule. So like when as my day goes, I'm like, oh, because it started with my cup of coffee, it started with my whatever. And I'm like, there is
yeah,
a way to change that mindset and wake up and do something that's going
yeah,
to set the tone for my day. I'm still discovering what that is for me. But like there has
yeah.
to be a way to start it on the right foot every day. And I mean,
Mm-hmm. Because I
share
think
your
when we get so
secrets.
caught up in the negative, we miss the
Yeah,
positives, right?
exactly. Yeah. Yeah. It'll
I
come.
hear that a lot in the dating world with like single friends that are single, that are older, that are like looking for relationships now. And I'm like, well, you're not even willing to look. Like you're not even
Yeah.
willing to like, you know, you can't, he's not just gonna come knock on your door. Like you're gonna have to like put yourself out there. Or like the same thing with
Mhm.
the perfect job. Like you're gonna have to try some jobs. I didn't
Exactly.
know the
Oh,
You
spa
have to be
world
willing
was a
to get out
perfect
the
job for me.
your
yeah.
bubble of thinking this is exactly
Yeah.
what you want can be too small and too limiting. Where if you're like,
Hmm.
okay,
Mhm.
I'm open to whatever's
Yeah.
supposed to happen, whatever is like, and that could be, say, if someone's dating someone and they're like, well, they have to be this age, they need to be this height, they need to have this job,
Yeah,
whatever.
well, the perfect guy that was perfect for you wasn't those things, but you wouldn't
Exactly.
even look and you let him pass.
Exactly.
Or the same thing with
Right.
the job, or the same thing with the whatever it
Exactly.
is, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've known
Yeah.
people that have like gone on, I mean, again, misery love company as well, when it's like they go on for years about like how miserable they are in the state and, and they talk about what they want to do. And I've honestly, to this one specific person, I won't say names or anything, but like I've sent them like a few job opportunities. I'm like, I know a person who's hiring, and I'm like, hey, are you interested? Think you'd be great for the role? And it's like dead air. And then when I see them
Yeah.
in person,
Because
I'm like,
they've
did
already
you get it?
decided that
Exactly.
it's not happening. And that
Exactly.
while you're so busy, like, looking for perfection,
Mhm.
you missed your perfection. Like you missed
Exactly.
what was right for you, the right fit for you. I never in a million years would have assumed on my first interview at the spa that that was the career choice for me.
Mhm.
Never in a million years. I did it as a part-time thing because I mean, yes, I was always interested in beauty world, but I didn't even put two and two together. I was like, I got to be a lawyer. This is the way it's got to go. This is the only
Mhm.
way that I'm going to make my life better. And I was so like dead set that that was my direction. I
Mhm.
think of that often, like what I would have done if I wouldn't have just given it the chance. And I'm so grateful that I did,
Mhm.
because it completely rerouted my path,
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
because
Yeah.
I tried.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Just give it a
You
chance. Sometimes you never know. Worst case scenario, you learn something new,
And you
right? Or
pivot,
you
just
like,
like you said, you just pivot.
just pivot.
even
Yeah.
my husband, he asked me on a date, and a girl I work with, the only reason I went is because a girl I work with was like, what is like, you're miserable. Like go out. I was like, no, I just came in a bad relationship. Like, I don't want to meet anyone. I'm like, I don't want a boyfriend. But she's like, oh, go have a conversation with someone. Like you're going to a movie or going to a dinner. Like just go make a friend. Worst case scenario, you got out of the house for a night. And I'm like, you're
Yeah.
right. I'm just going to go to get out of the house. And like,
Yeah.
think about how I would have closed that door,
Exactly.
and I've been with him for 20 some years now. Like,
I feel
I'm
like Aaron
like,
still would have chased you though for a little bit longer.
he
is that
what?
what, sorry?
I feel like Aaron still would have
Oh,
chased
that
you.
was already
Yeah.
him chasing me. Like, because I
Oh,
had already said no so many times, and then I
Yeah.
finally did. I
Yeah.
finally gave.
Oh. Has it been 20
But like,
years already?
we've been married for 19 years.
Oh my
listen.
Can you believe that?
God. Oh my
I know.
God. Because I'm like
I know.
I'm like my math, and it was like, no, because your anniversary was just on New Year's, right? And I'm like,
Yeah. So it'll be 20
how?
years next
Oh,
year. I think next year or
yeah.
the next New Year's. Yeah. So Kate is 22, my oldest. My middle guy is
Uh-huh.
19, and Elliot turns 15 next week.
Oh my God. That's like drivers,
I know.
learners.
He's gonna drive.
Hmm.
I
It's
see
As I
that.
remember holding her in my
Like
arms.
you
little
guys
little
have
Elia
little
Reese. Yeah.
you guys have little kids, and let me tell you, everybody tells you that the time goes so fast and whatever. Like I've been really struggling with that this year. I don't know why it hit me this year of all years, but like you wake up one day, like honest to God, I don't even know where the middle years, Like, I don't, it just, they were just gone. Like when I think
Yeah.
back, I'm like, they should be like little still.
Yeah.
Right.
It's crazy how fast it goes. And everybody warned me,
Yeah.
and I was just like, yeah, right, whatever, everything. Because you're so busy, you don't really think about it, right?
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you wake up and you're like, holy crap,
Yeah.
that time is gone. Like, it really does go as fast as everybody says it does. And
Yeah.
I was a non-believer. I was like, yeah, right, this is
Right.
taking forever. I'm like, oh my God, I have no freedom. I'm like, I haven't slept
All
since
I
the
want is for them to
90s.
be body trained.
Yeah.
Right.
I was like, I
Well,
just want, I just want to sleep.
yeah,
Yeah.
my kids are the same age as your kids would have been when we met you. Because Maria she turned 2 in November, and Colin will be 5 in June.
Yeah. And it doesn't feel like it was that long ago. Like, yes,
No.
it feels like it was a while ago, but it doesn't feel like it was that long ago.
No,
Right?
like, right? Yeah.
It goes so fast. We don't change that much. That's why.
Yeah.
And so, like, our relationship and our friendship and our, like, knowing each other kind of stays, like, we feel all the years we're
Yeah.
together.
Yeah.
But the kids don't. They,
No.
you know, I think about when my dad passed away. It doesn't feel like it was that long ago, but when I look at photos, they were so little, and I'm like, what? Like,
Like,
they
how
were
did the
that
time?
small when he passed away. I'm like, do they even
Yeah.
remember it? Like, it's just bizarre, but it goes
Yeah.
too fast. So
Yeah. Um, on that note, I know we talked a little bit briefly. I know that we don't have too much time here, but I do want to chat about, because we kind of talked about, again, tuition and following the signs and, the
Mhm.
spark, but like your dad is still a continued presence in your life, it sounds like. Do you want to kind of tell us what
Constant,
kind of
yeah.
signs?
Like, and other people in your life.
Yeah. Tell us
okay,
all the
I have
things.
like, and I mean, I think, again, you have to be open to see it and you have to be open to feel it. And I've always been that way. So first and foremost, I've always had really, really strong intuition my entire life. I know that. I just, like, had good feelings, bad feelings, gut feelings. It's like I knew when something was wrong. And so
Mhm.
the night that my dad actually passed away, I woke up at 2:35, 2:40 a.m., sat straight up in bed. Now, my oldest son, Cade, was with my father-in-law at a hockey tournament. And I sat straight up in bed, and I was like, I woke up my husband, and I was like, something's wrong. You need to call your dad. I think something's wrong with Cade. Like, I don't know what it is, but something's wrong. Like, and I was like hyperventilating, and he's like, Jess, my God, go back to bed. It's like 2:30 in the morning. Like, your phone isn't ringing. Like, what? And I couldn't let it go. And I made him call and check on Cade, but it didn't feel right that that's what it was. But my kids were all here except for my one child. And I was just like, as a mom, like, you just want to
Yep.
I couldn't put my finger on it, but I kept saying to him, like, something's wrong, something's wrong. Like, and I like it's like I couldn't breathe, and I had this pressure in my chest.
Mm.
And then at like 7:30 in the morning, my phone rang. And as soon as I saw my uncle's phone number, I looked at my husband and I said, my dad died. And I hadn't even answered the phone yet. So it turned out at 2:35, 2:40 a.m., he died. So I had that connection with him in one way or another, or intuition or instinct, that something was wrong. And I was right. And then after he passed away, just like, I feel him all the time around me. Like, he was always my biggest supporter. And yes, he struggled with addictions and things, but he was just also my biggest leader, and taught me all the values. As much as he struggled, he also had these incredible, wonderful moral values that he taught me. And kindness was like his biggest thing. And I truly believe that, like, the giving side of me just comes from him. But yeah, there's just like little things like white feathers and that I see, and just really crazy, wild things that there's just no way that they could happen. And a non-believer would say, like, okay, well, that's just really random coincidence, but I just don't believe that.
No,
I
it's
believe
not the
that.
biggest coincidence. Get
No.
I
over it.
know. I don't believe that, and I just don't have those conversations with those people, right? But
That's fair.
and
Yeah.
then when my friend Allie died, very same thing happened.
Mhm.
Very, very similar. And until this day, like, there's just so many little things that there's in my heart. I know and I believe that they're with me all the time, or that they show me signs of, like, little things. And just, it's such a comforting feeling, I think, for me to know that,
Mhm.
like,
Yeah.
they're there, because I do believe that once someone's passed on, they are with you, they're following you, they're there, they're supporting you, they
Yeah.
love you,
Totally.
but you have to be open-minded to see it. And, like, I'm very lucky because most of my people in my circle genuinely believe too, so they see, but yeah, there's been some pretty crazy instances, and Britt knows them all, because I, like,
Well, you and I
freaking
were,
phone her bawling.
we were in the hotel together, and I had played my music. And you come out and you're like, what is this song? I was
I
like, it
don't
was
even remember this. Tell me.
yeah, okay. Sorry, I gotta sneeze at the same time. I'm so sorry. Stop. No, we're
Do
going.
it. Just please do it. Please.
No,
I have to find the song on my
Right.
phone because I'm gonna forget what the name was, but it was all that was like I will it's like I love you always forever. Blah,
Near
blah,
our
That's
blah.
Ally.
perfect
Yeah, and so
together.
we were in a hotel room
I
together and
do it,
that
do
song
it.
was on and you came out and you're just like, this is like Allie's favorite song. And I was like, oh, that's crazy. Like I didn't
It's a
know, but
great
you're just like,
song. But
you
she's
like
like, I'm
needed.
here too,
So
girls.
Yeah, exactly.
there's a couple of things, like I'll give you a couple instances if you want to like hear some of them
We
because they're
do.
kind of
Please,
wild.
yeah.
And we,
Okay,
and
so
everybody else wants to hear.
my dad passed away in our small town, and in our small town we don't really have very good radio coverage. It's like between C95 and Z99, Regina, Saskatoon. So like when I was a kid, we would like record all the music, and it was like, and then the song would play, and then it'd be like, and that was what we had for music. But anyway, and so that's just always been known that way. Anyways, so then after my dad died, I wanted to put together a slideshow, and so like I worked really, really hard on it. And I was trying to find the music to go with it. Now, my dad was a singer and he always sang Neil Diamond. And so I put all the slides to Neil Diamond, but there was one chunk at the end that I couldn't find a song that would fit the rest of and I was just like, I don't know. So I phoned my sister. She was actually had flown home and whatever, and she was going back and forth to her in-laws in Craig. And I said to her, they lived on a farm where like music is like even worse to get. And I said, like, I don't know what to use for the song. And she's like, well, why don't we ask mom? Like, yes, they've been divorced for like 20 years, but like, she was a really big piece of his life. And like, maybe there's a song from when he was younger that we just don't know about. Like he sang Neil Diamond his mature life, but like, what about when he was young? Maybe there's a song. So we phoned my mom, and my mom said, oh, like Heaven by Bryan Adams was their song. And she's like, I feel like it's really fitting. Like he loved that song, but it was like our song. And I'm like, and my mom's remarried and stuff. So I was just like, okay, well, we won't say anything about why it is, but I'm like, I might use that because it's Bryan Adams. My dad loved Bryan Adams. I'm like, you know what, let's do it. So I played around with it. Turned out it didn't really work. So I just picked another Neil Diamond song, played it, whatever. So jump ahead. We're at the funeral, and we're going to the funeral, and all the families went, and we're sitting in the driveway of my sister's husband's family's farm. And it's like out in the country. So like we're sitting in the car, and I had been listening to the radio driving into Craig, and then it cuts out. So I just like couldn't hear it anymore. So anyways, I had it turned down so it gets all fuzzy and whatever. So it was super turned down. And we're sitting in the car, and we kind of had this moment before heading into town to go to the funeral. And we're just like kind of sitting there quietly and like taking in like the moment before we head to the funeral. And I said, like, I don't know about the slideshow. And she's like, you're overthinking it. And I'm like, I don't know. Like, do you think I picked the right music? I'm like, I don't want to hurt mom's feelings because I didn't use that song. I'm like, what do you think dad would want to do? And she's like, dad will support whatever you think, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, I don't know. I feel bad that I didn't use that song. Like, I hope he's not upset with me. And as I said that, Bryan Adams' Heaven plays. Now, I don't remember the last time that I've even heard that song on the radio, number one. Number two, the radio doesn't really work. And we just looked at each other.
There was, yeah.
We just looked at each other and we were like, we just couldn't talk. We just started crying. And then as we drove out of the driveway, it then cut out and we had no radio again.
So
but like of all this, we're literally talking about that song and about whether or not he approved and didn't approve and whatever. It was wild. Like wild. Yeah. And like, just like lots of little things like that, like lots and lots of little things. And I just listen to them and remember like, okay, I'm not alone. Like, on days that I feel like I miss that I can't talk to him or he was always my phone call to call and like rant or vent or like cry about business or whatever. And so I have these moments of like wishing he was around, and like there'll always be something, like mostly music because that was like his thing. But photos I found. Remember that time I phoned you, Britt, at the lake, from the lake, and I was like bawling.
Photos are coming.
I was like having a day and I like stopped and I was like, I feel like everything's a mess. I'm like, I just wish I could feel like you around me. And then I don't even remember what I was doing. I went down to the basement at my cabin that we've only lived in for like 4 years. My dad died like 9 years ago now. And there was a box, and on top of it was my dad's wallet. I don't even know how it got, I haven't seen it since how it got there.
No.
and there was like some pictures and stuff. I'm bawling. So I go upstairs and I like phone Britt and like open it up, and it's like pictures of me when I was like a little girl. And like, it was just the most ridiculous.
It was so
Like I literally asked for it out loud. I was like, I just don't feel like you're around me. You haven't shown me any signs that you're near me anymore. Blah, blah, blah. And like went downstairs to get something. And this like box in my laundry room is just sitting there, and there's this black wallet sitting on top. And I was like, I've never brought my dad's stuff to the lake. Like, how would it get to my cabin in a storage box? I don't know. Whatever.
Yeah.
However, it got there probably from moving stuff and whatever.
Yeah.
But anyway, and that was the first time I'd even seen his wallet since he died. I don't even remember having it because he didn't have it on him when he died. I don't know.
Right.
Just, and it was like one of
Nuts.
those old fat wallets that had like so much stuff. So it was like an hour of like going through stuff. And then underneath it was this like pile. And I'm pretty sure if I looked back in our conversations, Brett, the pictures are probably there, but there's a pile
Okay.
of photos of him.
Yeah, that you'd never
Just like
seen. You hadn't seen them.
I hadn't seen them since I was like a kid.
Yeah.
And I was just like, what in the actual, and I was just sobbing. Like,
Getting that phone
you
call,
know.
I felt like so honored that you one called me, and I was like, two, I was like, this is so
Well, because I think
amazing.
if I would have called Aaron, he would have been like, "Meh, I put that there," or like, I found
Exactly.
that. You
I
know,
only
told
pop
you
my
to put
bubble.
this there.
like,
Exactly.
yeah, oh, for sure. Like immediately, like squish that idea.
Exactly.
But no, I was like, it didn't really matter to me. It was just meaningful, and it was like a reminder that I needed that day. It was just wild. I'm sure there's even more to it than that if I looked back at our conversation, because I feel like I'm missing a piece of something else I saw. But anyway,
So I don't,
Yeah.
that day also, you got a call from either your great aunt or something. And it
okay,
was a
yes. What was the call about? That's right. Oh my God. Okay, no. I came upstairs. See, this is what happens. I came upstairs after finding the wallet, bawling my eyes out, grab my phone to call you. Oh, this is what it was. Grab my phone to call you, and the phone rings, and it's a lady telling me my old house,
that's
the
it.
house that I grew up in that we lost, that I've always told my dad I was going to buy back for him. They were calling me to let me know that the house was going back up on the market, and wanted to let me know in case I wanted to buy it.
Yes.
Your dad's house. They're like, oh, we wanted to let you know your dad always wanted you, like, you talked about it all the time. So we're letting you know that the house was going back up on the market if you were interested in blah, 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 blah. And I was just like, oh my God, thank you. And then I called you.
Yeah. You're just like, what is
That's what it
happening? Yeah. And I also feel like there was something with your aunt or something too, that they also found extra pictures of him, and they were
There
letting
was-
you know within
You're
within
right,
the
there
time
was.
frame.
Oh,
was that
no.
day? Okay.
I phoned my auntie. Oh my God, I'm so glad that you're telling me. Then I phoned my auntie before I called you, maybe, to tell her about my house, because she lives in town, and she's like, I'm actually just at the grave site right now. Remember, she was
Yes.
was at the standing at my dad's gravestone.
I love that. I don't
That's
actually
what
know
it
how I
was.
remembered all of that, but here we are.
That's fantastic. Hey, that's good.
That's what it was. I knew it was like a whole series.
It
because
was
I
a big
just
deal.
bawling.
It was just like, what the
Sounds
heck?
like a
started with
wild day.
It started with the wallet, then the pictures, then my house was for sale. Then I called my auntie to tell her that the house was for sale, and like asked her to look and see if there was a sign. And she's like, well, I'm just at the, or maybe I text her or something. Anyway, I'm just at the graveyard right now, actually. And I was just like, I just was at your dad's gravesite right now, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, what the F is happening right now? Like,
Your
what
dad's
is
like,
all
I'm
of that
here.
within like, no.
God, that was probably the most wild.
Yeah, all in this was like in 2.5 minutes, this whole
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah, it was literally like the best definition or the best outcome of ask and you shall receive.
Ask and you shall
Yeah.
receive. Literally, if you need a sign,
Oh my God,
ask
I'm
for a
so glad.
sign.
I haven't thought of that for a long time. That was like a summer and a half ago. But that's right. I'm glad you brought that up, Rick, or that you mentioned that, because like I knew there was more to it about my auntie. So I'm glad you said that part.
I don't know how I remember.
I would have forgot about that completely.
Really?
Yeah.
Because like you feel it in the and you like forget and move on. But there's like little stuff like that happens all the time, and I just,
Yeah.
I don't know.
The little
Right.
things mean a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it
Okay.
feels good to believe anyway. So like to see that
Exactly.
stuff is just like so heartwarming, right?
Exactly. If all it does is make you feel good in that sense of like
Yeah.
keeping your head up and like literally just giving you the pat on the back or like that hug that you need when you need it, there's no harm.
And
There's
also
no
just
harm.
like that he's always here, with me.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Oh, you froze. And I gotta take a picture because I know oh
Okay.
shit! Damn it, I can grab a still later. Oh, you're gonna hate that still photo, Jess.
Oh,
It's
good.
great.
get
I'll
it?
save it. No, I tried, but I'll be able to get it later.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
Oh,
my God.
you
That is funny.
I'm gonna
jerk.
save it for your
You don't-
birthday.
But while we
Rude.
were just talking there, I was shuffling from my one deck because I brought two decks because I was like, do I want to pull from both? No, but I don't know why, but I need to have these both decks. But for some reason, I was
Okay.
shuffling while we were talking, and a card came out, and I'm assuming it was for you because this is the deck I want to pull for the collective. But my wisdom of my hidden realms deck that I was going through, and I don't know. Again, it may not have anything to do with anything, but
Mhm.
for some reason it decided to come out and it's telling me this card should be for you. So we will see. If you don't mind me sharing this live, if you'd
No.
rather me tell you after, I can.
No, good, cool.
Okay. So
How about
the card that had come out is called the Metal King, Discipline, Armor, and Boundaries. So it's like getting ready. The Metal King is strong and arrives to lend you his impenetrable shield of protection. No matter who sends you criticism or jealousy, you will not be hurt. This ally also prompts you to think about setting healthy boundaries. Oh, I wonder, just when you do,
I'll explain in a minute, a little bit. I'll give a little.
yeah, when you do, no matter how uncomfortable the task may be, everyone will benefit. This ally asks you to make sure you know where you end and another begins. Others' emotions are not yours, no matter how empathetic you may be. Another of the Metal King's messages is to remind you how important it is to have a healthy sense of self-esteem. It's a good time to shine and be proud of what you've accomplished. So yeah, I'd definitely say that card's
Aw.
for you.
I think that's for you.
I'd
So
say
I very recently had to make some very strong boundaries with some people in my world, and it sucked really bad.
Yeah.
But I have to for my family,
Yeah.
for
Mhm.
our health, for our future, for my kids. And it was 100% the right decision. But yeah, it was a hard one. So that's kind of good to hear.
that.
That's
I
the
love
right.
that.
Yeah.
Love it.
Well,
Nice.
I'm gonna pull mine as well. That's okay. So I'm doing
Yes,
my Kim
please.
Kranz Animal Spirits. That's my favorite one. And yeah, so we do like a collective reading, Jess. I don't know if you've listened in before, but yeah, so we do like this is gonna come out this Saturday. I don't know if I told you that. We decided it's gonna be our
Okay,
this one.
amazing.
So yeah,
Fabulous.
so I guess yeah, I'm just gonna see what needs to come
And after you, I
out.
have a collective card reading as well that just
Yeah.
flew out. But that card before was specifically just for Jess.
Okay, yeah. I just saw like a brick wall. I don't know. I don't know what that means, but for anybody who wants it, take it. Oh, a lamb. A lammy.
Mm.
The lamb. Okay, so hold on. Hold on. Do. I can never find anything in my book. And it is, there it is. Okay. Peaceful, prophetic, and patient. The lamb is the bearer of an important message. Its contents can only be heard when a deep level of quiet has been established. Lamb energy is the honest guidance you hear from an old friend, a young child, or sometimes a surprising stranger. Though the lamb's message may channel through another person, the wisdom resonates within you. It will repeat and reverberate until you listen. Approach this gentle creature with the utmost patience and reverence. Truth is a gift. Sit still, listen, and receive. So when we're in balance, we are filled with knowingness and inner peace. When we're out of balance, we're quiet, timid, or concerned. To bring it to balance, meditation or listening. And I think that's
like
really great when it comes to like, again, listening to, those around me, your story, or, your mentorship, and just like being allowed to be guided, right? Like a sheep is a young lamb, right? Who needs a shepherd, who needs somebody to help guide it, right? So, anyways, okay, it's great.
He's a mentor.
He's a
Just
mentor. He's a mentorship.
Okay, so the card that
So
came
funny.
out of my deck, it actually flew out of my deck. So I knew that. I was like, oh, I guess we're not done here. So the perspective over at my
Like,
end,
read me.
literally, is the wheel. So exciting changes are coming. The wheel.
The wheel.
Spins with the power of life and turns to bring you prosperous new opportunities. If you've been finding it difficult to get your plans off the ground, this will change now. Sudden movement forward is likely. So while the idea of change can sometimes be worrying to people, you must trust and know the universe wants you to be happy. Unexpected events are meant to point you in the direction that will bring you more joyful and a fulfilling life. If you're feeling uncertain, ask this archangel to give you a clear understanding of where you're headed. So the additional meanings are a fresh start, optimism for the future, and ability to adapt.
Mm,
So that's
Ooh, I like that
very
one. I love that
relatable. I
one.
love it. Very
very on
nice.
brand for this
That's a good one.
Mhm. Right
Amazing.
I like it.
Well, we could talk with you
Love it.
forever, and maybe we'll just have to do a second episode one day.
Can we
If
arrange
you're
for another one?
I'm down.
that.
Totally.
Well,
Where can
Miss,
we find, or sorry, where can all of our followers find you? Do you want us to tell everybody where to find you, or do you
Yeah, sure.
handles offhand?
Yeah.
cool.
I mean,
oh,
Instagram is probably the easiest way. I'm on there probably the most actively. I mean, Instagram, Facebook, both. But it's just my name, Jesstetu, Jess Tetu. That's
Yep.
it.
Amazing.
You can
Pretty
find all of her
easy.
links through everything on her
Yeah,
Instagram.
you look at her bio and all the things you can do. You can go to JFY spas, you can go to Iconic Betty, you can go to Leah Reese Canada, and everything in between.
Yeah,
And 471
exactly.
resources.
Yeah.
But yeah.
My events coming up, because we do have a few coming up, are
Yeah.
are listed on my website too, and that's just
Yes.
jesstetu.com. But there's a few coming up. There's a couple in Saskatoon and Calgary and Melfort and all over Alberta and Marwayne and Paradise Hill, and Britt will be with me hopefully.
Yeah, I've already
Yes.
connected with my mom that we will do the sleepovers so I can leave.
Fabulous.
But yeah, and you are the first person to know this information, but if you have anything planned in May, Jessica's gonna be in Saskatoon.
Oh, I don't, but we will now. That's exciting.
Yes.
Yay.
I'll be home for
Last time
not quite 3 weeks.
I
Sorry,
ran into you like randomly when you were home. Remember?
yes.
I saw you at
at
Better
the
Brothers.
Better
Oh,
Brothers
yeah,
we were
night
like
for
playing
the
cards.
crib night.
Tournament by
The crib
Danny.
tournament. I was like, what the fuck?
I just stopped. It was weird because we just stopped because like my friend's like, oh, do you want to stop and say hi to the owner or whatever? And I was like, well, I'm pretty tired, but like, let's go for like 10, 15 minutes. And we went, and then all of a sudden you were there. I was like, don't you live in a different country? Like, what's happening here?
Why are you here? Yeah,
It was so good to see you.
It was a
I know,
sneaky
it was
one.
so good.
That was a
I
sneak.
know, it was
A
good.
sneaky one that turned into 3 months, but that's a
Yeah.
story for another
It
time.
happens. Happens. It
It
happens.
happens like that, right?
God.
Well, to
Yeah.
our listeners,
Well, let's definitely get
yes,
together.
please.
Yes.
Oh, yes. Honestly, I'd love that. It'd be so good. I know I'm like, we'll just like, we'll have all the children, not like you want to see all of the children, but I know you want to see
I
some.
like all the children.
Snuggle all of them together. Yeah,
Love it.
they're big and they're sassy. Actually, Maria reminds me a lot of like little Elia because Maria loves to help me with my makeup. Not like I have a lot, but she is a pink girly. She loves her purses and she's like accessories and like
Now she's
glasses.
good at hair clip.
Loves
I
haircuts,
love it.
loves things. So
Love
yeah,
it.
anyways, to our people listening, you guys can find us on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube, Basic Banter for Witches, or you can email us basicbanterforwitches@gmail.com. But otherwise, Mrs. Jess,
You guys remember that one time a month we do a live card reading. So in our bio, in our Google form, if you want to submit a question, either anonymously or with your name, we will do a live card reading for free. Just put your questions in there.
Put your questions in, anonymous. We'll just answer them. We'll do card readings. It's fun time.
Really.
So fun.
Amazing, guys. Well, we love you all.
Yeah.
I love you both, Jess. Is so
I
damn.
love you, Jess.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah,
And
it's
then
a
we will see you
pleasure.
guys next time. Bye-bye now.
Bye.